Welcome to another edition of Living the B3 Way. I am so happy to have you guys here today because I wanted to talk to you about what I call the biggest challenges when it comes to life. When stuff happens and you just don't know how to handle it. Happens to all of us, right? You're doing great, everything's super, you wake up at the same time, you're exercising, you're eating healthy, you're doing great at work, your family life is super, everything's just, you're making money, everything's great. And then all of a sudden, something happens. Could be a death in the family. It could be you lose your job. It could be that you have a health emergency or somebody close to you does. Could be anything. Life happens. And then what do you do? That's a big challenge. And that's what I want to tackle today. That's a big one, right? But we're going to do it in a very simple way because it may not be easy, but it is simple. Let's focus on whatever's happening. Let's focus on 3 circles. I want you to draw 3 circles. That first circle is everything that's in this big circle. I want you to do 3 concentric circles, okay? But the big circle, everything that's in that is your circle of concern. This is Stephen Covey's work. It's always served me well, and I love it. Everything that's in that circle of concern, great, but anything that's outside that circle of concern, we don't have to worry about. That would be like the price of rice in India. Do you really care about that unless you're from India right now? But for right now, most of my audience isn't. So let's talk now about the other 2 circles, which are the ones that probably have the most influence on you and the ones that are going to have the ones you have the most control over, right? So the ones where you need the most focus. This next one in, so you have a circle of concern. Now the next one in is your circle of influence. That circle of influence is the things that you actually can, or it can influence you. So this could be people that you work with. This could be people in your family. It could be your friends. It's in your community, in your church, your temple. Okay, your nonprofit that you work in, or you help, or you volunteer. All these people are part what we call your circle of influence. So these are things that are not inside, but they're out there, but they influence you. And now what's the middle one? That's your circle of focus, but it's also your circle of control. Why? Sometimes people have a very small circle in the center of control. It is because they don't focus on what's internal, the things that they have control over. Think about it. The circle of influence are things that you don't have control over, but you have control over how you handle them, which is exactly what I wanted to focus on. With life, we want to focus on the things that we can focus on, but also control. Because if you focus on things that are of concern, but are outside your circle of influence, or even outside more importantly, outside your circle of control, I call that worry. And it's a waste of time. When you spend time worrying about things that you cannot either influence or things they might be concerned about, you have no control over, it is a waste. And we spend an awful lot of time every day focusing on those things. We might be focused on regret, which are things that happen in the past that we can't change, you can't control, or we might be focused on things that are in the future that we're worried about. Am I going to get a new job? Will my loved one get healthier? Will this health scare be the end of me? You name it, right? It could be any one of those things. Whatever life event it is, that what if is the things that we'll ruminate on that don't serve us. Well, why do we do that? Because fear is a default. We go into the fear mode, or we go into the shame and doubt and shame mode, because that's part of the human experience of being an animal first and how we evolved to respond to protect us, right? It's the fight or flight response. It's really that response that's happening. That response serves us because it keeps us alive. We need to be able to go out and when we wake up in the morning and go, what are our biggest threats? Or the gene pool is going to eliminate us, right? That when we tens of thousands or even thousands of years ago, we went outside, we wanted to know what animal was there that was going to attack us or what tribe was coming to kill us. That kept us alive. It may not serve us now, but it's still built into the way that our behaviors work, the way our nervous system works. Does it mean you need to constantly give into that? No, that's the default. So what do? We have to work at a higher level. What's that higher level? It's stop and take a breath. Yeah, stop and take a breath. Right now, I want you to stop, put your feet on the ground, take 2 deep breaths in through your nose, and then blow out through your mouth. Do it again. You just stopped the stress response. Not with your head, but physiologically, because by doing that, when you fill your lungs up, you're filling your alveoli, those little air sacs up, it's telling your nervous system that things are okay. Because we don't take deep breaths when we're stressed and ready to fight, right? Or ready to run. We take shallow breaths. When you get nervous, right? You hyperventilate. Just slow, deep breaths. Now, that first breath will fill the air sacs. That second breath will expand your rib cage. And that sends a message to your vagus nerve, which goes straight to your brain to say, hey, amygdala, calm down. Everything's fine. We can quiet that circuit. We're not at risk of dying or needing to run. That's number one. Blowing it out also, getting rid of the CO2, nice, long, slow breath. When CO2's down, that's another physiological click in with our nervous systems to say, oh, everything is safe, everything's okay. But now we need to respond. For every stimulus, there's a response. But the space between, Viktor Frankl said it best, that space between is the freedom that we have to choose whichever suits us, whichever serves us best. And right now we need to stop the automatic habits that we have that are not serving us, that are caused by this stress response. Sometimes that stress response automatically happens because I like to call it the inner critic sets us off. And that inner critic needs to be quieted. How do you do that? Again, 2 deep breaths. And then pause and point out that inner critic doesn't serve you anymore. Because let's say that you got stressed because somebody pointed something out to you that set off your pleaser inside of you or your judge. Any negative thought is something that's triggered by your inner critic. Okay, that inner critic is something we need to quiet. Then we need to bring out your inner coach. That inner coach is somebody inside of you, that part of you, that true authentic self in you that knows, hey, you can do this. You may not be there yet. Not the one that's saying, oh, you screwed up. Oh, you suck at this. Oh, you're a loser. That's the negative. Let's quiet that. And that's within your circle of control, that inner circle. If you focus on that, amazing things can happen. And if you need help, give me a call, because that's what I do. I help people lose weight with their mind, not their mouth. I also help you live the life you've always dreamed of with your mind, not your mouth, and not listening to those inner critics. This is another edition of Living the B3 Way. I'm looking forward to working with you next week. If you want to learn more, check out my newsletter. I just posted my newsletter on negative self-talk and how to overcome it, how to work with that inner coach instead of inner critic. It's on LinkedIn. Check it out and let me know if you like it or not. Have a great day. See you next week.